Today, we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to become an ARC advocate, what a legislative alert is, and then how to deal with legislative alerts that you receive. We will also cover how often they occur and what to do when you get it. The first thing that I would like to talk about is what is an alert? So Merriam-Webster's definition is quick to perceive and act. It can also be an urgent notice. That comes up when we have a bill or a piece of legislation that is being reviewed by legislators, your elected officials, and then you have the opportunity to act on the information that you receive. Oftentimes, when bills or pieces of legislation are being reviewed by elected officials, there is little time to act on the decisions that are being made. Often we get a day, sometimes two, to respond and let our legislators know what it is that we feel about or think about that piece of legislation. So an alert that you receive from the St. Louis ARC or other entities are going to share information with you about the piece of legislation, what it may or may not do to help or not help your situation, and then what you can do to respond. A good legislative alert will offer you some background information about the piece of legislation. It will also allow you to respond, usually in a way that is simple and fast, that allows you to let your representatives and senators know how you feel about the legislation that they're looking at. Sometimes when you respond, you will be responding in support of that bill or legislation or against that bill or legislation, depending on how you feel about the situation. Right now, we are going to spend a little bit of time talking about what an ARC advocate is, and then that way you actually get access to legislative alerts. So currently, we have a website. You can get to our website by going to www.slarc.org. Since 1950, the St. Louis ARC has been the voice of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And during this time, we have been doing our best to teach both individuals with disabilities and their families about the importance of sharing their opinions and telling their stories. So one of the best ways that we can advocate and easiest ways that we can advocate is by signing up as an ARC advocate. In order to sign up as an ARC advocate, all you have to do is contact me on the website, and you can see here is my name, Ann Mangelsdorf. You can click on this link and it will take you to my email address, which will allow you to let me know that you would like to become an ARC advocate. Once you have become an ARC advocate, you will be available to receive access to alerts, newsletters, and other updates about things that are going on in Washington, D.C., in Jefferson City, and locally at your neighborhood level. While we don't focus exclusively on the neighborhood level, getting involved at the neighborhood level oftentimes will result in effects that you can have on state and national levels. One of the things that we're going to do is talk about how to communicate with your policymakers. So this is one thing that happens when you are filling out your information about the legislative alert, but oftentimes it can be a way for you to reach out to your legislator individually. So one way that you can get involved is by finding out who your legislators are. So we are going to go to the website, which is on the advocacy page of the St. Louis ARC, and we're going to click on the Senate page. From there, we're going to type in the ARC's address. Let's see what happens. So here you can see that all of your legislators pop up for the Warson building at the St. Louis ARC. So you can have information about what senatorial, House, and US district you live in. You can also see who your legislators are. So here for the St. Louis ARC, we have Senator Jill Schupp, we have Representative Tracy McCreary, and we have Congresswoman Cori Bush. So Congresswoman Cori Bush represents the St. Louis ARC in Washington, D.C. Senator Jill Schupp and Representative Tracy McCreary, they represent your districts in Jefferson City. And then you have statewide elected officials, your governor, your lieutenant governor, secretary of state, state auditor, state treasurer, and attorney general. In addition, you will have your US senators, which currently all of us in Missouri share. And that would be Senator Roy Blunt and Senator Josh Hawley. So they represent all Missourians in the Senate at the US federal level in Washington, D.C. So just to reiterate, you've got representatives and senators that represent you at the state level and also at the federal level. So the other thing that's important to note is when you get a legislative alert, you need to know whether or not this alert is going to go to your state folks or your congressional folks at the federal level. So it's important to know who your legislators are so that you are able to reach out to them. Many legislators are not aware of what is required of families who are caring for someone with a disability. They are also not aware of what it takes to have a disability and live in the community. So your stories are absolutely imperative to educating your legislators about those issues. It is what you know best. When you receive a legislative alert, you have the option of agreeing with it, disagreeing with it, or ignoring it. If you decide to respond to your legislative alert, it does take about a day before that alert is no longer viable. So we really, when we send out alerts through the St. Louis ARC, we are very interested in making sure that you respond to those alerts quickly, which is why they're called alerts. When you receive a legislative alert through the St. Louis ARC, oftentimes our goal is to not overwhelm you with lots of words and lots of alerts. So you may receive up to 6 alerts or so a year, which is not a lot, but when we do contact you, we need you. One of the things that I find is legislators, when they receive a number of emails or phone calls on a particular topic, and that number could be 10. But when legislators receive 10 or more phone calls, they feel like they've received a landslide of phone calls because most people are not responding or reaching out to their legislators on an ongoing regular basis. So your call is extremely important, your email is extremely important, and your story is extremely important. When you reach out to your legislators, your story about what you're dealing with, in addition to whatever messages you get from the St. Louis ARC, is going to make the difference between a legislator reading an alert from you and not. One of the things that's also important is to reach out to your legislators before you need to ask them for anything. That could be sending them a birthday card. That could be sending them a picture of you and your family and telling your story and letting them know that you are there. It may be reaching out to them and letting them know or inviting them to an event that you're having. And oftentimes you will be surprised at how often they will accept. So you may want to schedule time with them on the telephone. You may want to schedule a visit with them in person. And there's two ways to do that. One is by inviting them to a local coffee shop or restaurant in the neighborhood because your legislators live in the neighborhoods where you do. Your other option is to make an appointment and schedule a visit at the Capitol. And then questions you can ask yourself. What is your goal? What is your concern, your question or request? And what is the most important to you that the legislator can help you with? Typically, you want to limit your ask to one or two issues that are important to you. Oftentimes, when you meet with your legislator or schedule a meeting with your legislator, you may be meeting with them directly or with their aide. The aides who have been working in the field of elected officials oftentimes are not dealing with elections, term limits, or things like that. So oftentimes the aides stay in office and are the people who are most familiar with all of the issues and things that are going on. When you do communicate with your legislator, you're only going to need a few minutes. 1 to 3 minutes is about all you get. So you want to make sure that your time with your legislator is brief and to the point. You are welcome to listen as well as talk, but it's important that you have an opportunity to talk because the legislator is there for you. At the end of your time with your legislator, regardless of whether it is in person or through a legislative alert, you want to thank them for their time in your letter, in your email, or in person. So again, legislators do want to hear from you at the state and federal level, and they are interested in your stories, which are more important than anything else I can think of. So we look forward to having you as an ARC advocate and a responder to legislative alerts.